Hello, and welcome back to the Marvel and DC Retrospective Podcast. This is another episode of Midlife Crisis, which is the show where I talk about a DC event. I talk about every DC event in order as they happen in the timeline, and just explain what happens in them. Originally, this episode was going to be a Flash episode, but I found out that Legends actually takes place before Flash Volume 2, so I got to cover this first before I cover the Flash, because it leads straight into that series. But, I didn't want to leave Flash out entirely, so we'll end this episode with a final segment, which will be Flash Annual 1, because it's technically an epilogue to this event. And it leads directly into the Flash, so we can do the annual, and then next episode, start off straight off with Flash issue 1 onward, Legends. Legends is what we're doing today, and Legends was an event that came pretty much right after Crisis. They had a couple of issues. It would have been about 8 weeks after, not 8 weeks, 8 months after Crisis or so. The Flash hadn't gotten his own series yet, but Superman's new rebooted series and Batman's new series, it all started. And Legends is basically just an introduction to this new Earth, an event that can showcase all of these characters that are on this new Earth that we were left with after Crisis on Infinite Earths. The series is written by John Ostrander and Len Wein. John Ostrander is famous for Suicide Squad. He wrote the original series Suicide Squad. And the Suicide Squad are actually introduced in this event. And Len Wein is known for creating Swamp Thing. And he wrote some Green Lantern. I think he wrote some Batman at some point. He's written a bit of everything. The art is by John Byrne, who is currently writing Superman, and I think he's doing the art for Superman as well. And so it's written by John Ostrander, Len Wein, and art by John Byrne. It's good art. John Byrne is a great artist. Let's get started. So, if you remember in Crisis on Infinite Earths, they got Darkseid to help them at the end of the story. And Darkseid, at the very end, was like, next time we meet, we'll be as enemies. And it didn't take them very long for DC to act upon this promise, because Darkseid is the main villain of this story. We start off on Apocalypse, and Darkseid is just gloating about how, he's created what he considers to be order on Apocalypse, which basically just means no one has free will. And that's order to him, and he's very happy about what he's done. But Darkseid is like, don't forget about this thing called Earth, these peasants on Earth. Don't forget about them, we hate them. And Darkseid is like, yes, I didn't forget about them, Darkseid, I'm not stupid. I should kill you for suggesting that I'd forgotten about them. Darkseid points out the fact that, he's like, forgive me. I just thought I should remind you about the trouble of, the legends on that planet, these so-called superheroes. Darkseid is like, for once, Darkseid, you were right. So I gotta do something, about these superheroes. But instead of taking them on head on, it's probably a better idea for me to just ruin their legends. Now, am I going to do that? I'm going to do that with the help of a couple of my servants. So he calls in these two characters named Dr. Bedlam and G. Gordon Godfrey, and he tells them to sorry about that, just had to throw my cat out the room because it was pulling my clothes off of my dryer, my hanger. He tells Dr. Bedlam and G. Gordon Godfrey to go to Earth and start working on their plan to ruin the legends of the heroes. And so that's what they go off to do. And then Darkseid is like, and I'm going to do some stuff behind the scenes as well that will help you. And so we go to Earth, and we're at like a facility. It's called, I think it's they say it's the Queen's Facilities of an organization called Scientific and Technological Advanced Research, which is STAR. So we're at Star Labs. For some reason, they don't even call it Star Labs. They just have to call it by its entire name. There we find Martin Stein, who, if you remember from Crisis on Infinite Earths, I explained that Martin Stein is half of Firestorm. He's working on a nuclear like a fusion generator. And then all of a sudden, the fusion generator explodes, and this being called Brimstone comes out of it. So Darkseid had like placed this guy inside the fusion generator so that he could be activated at the right time and emerge from it. So Martin Stein is like, I'm gonna have to get Firestorm to help deal with this. And so we find Ronnie Raymond, who is he's like in the shower, like he's the other half of Firestorm. He's getting the shower, and he's gonna go on a date, but then he has to transform into Firestorm, and he's like, Stein, no! And he's like in the shower when they transform, which is kind of funny. And so Firestorm flies over to where Brimstone is and starts fighting him. But Brimstone overpowers him pretty quickly because Firestorm's powers don't work on him, which is surprising because Firestorm has the ability to do anything. He can transmute matter. But yeah, Brimstone just grabs him and throws him. Firestorm's just like, I'm gonna need to get help from them. So he's like talking about like he's got someone in mind that can help him. And meanwhile, on Wall Street, the Flash is fighting Deadshot. The Flash is like, you're normally in Gotham. Why are you here? And Deadshot is like, I just go where the money is. But the Flash, like, it's the Flash. Like, he beats Deadshot really easily. Deadshot tries to get away and the Flash just punches him out. And then arrests him. And the Flash at this moment is Wally West. Because at the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths, Barry died, and his suit and ring were passed on to Wally, and Wally decided to continue the legend of the Flash and become the Flash. And he used to have like a heart problem, but it was fixed by the Anti-Monitor when he got hit by the Anti-Monitor's energy. But Wally is pointing out the fact that like ever since his heart problems have been fixed, he hasn't been able to reach the speed of beyond the speed of sound, which is considered slow for a Flash, and that his stamina just isn't as good as it used to be. So he gets tired more easily. These people come up to him and they're like, "You look shorter than what happened to you, Flash? You look shorter than you used to be," and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, "I saw you on TV once." And Wally is like, "I don't have time to answer all these questions. I need to get Deadshot somewhere else." And so he drops Deadshot off at the police, and then he's like, I'm going to go to Titan's Tower because it's the closest place nearby where I can rest. So he goes to Titan's Tower, and Beast Boy is watching TV. Beast Boy is a member of the Teen Titans. Transform into any animal. And on the TV is G. Gordon Godfrey, Darkseid's assistant. And he's like pretending to be this spokesperson who is speaking out against superheroes. And he's like, we've gotten to a point where like I consider superheroes to be menaces. They're ticking time bombs, you know. And he's talking to Billy Batson, who Billy Batson is the kid who becomes Shazam. And Billy Batson has his own show. He's like 14 or something, or 13, and he's got his own show that he interviews people on. And D. Gordon Godfrey is his guest. Wally shows up and he talks about the fact that like he feels like this legend that he's continuing as Barry is like too much for him because everyone's expecting a lot out of him. And Beast Boy is like, well, why don't you just change your name? Because then you won't have to live up to the legend anymore. And Wally is like, yeah, but if I change my name, then the Legend of Barry dies, and I refuse to let that happen. So, like, he's putting himself in this situation, and he just refuses to make things easier for himself, because he doesn't want the Legend of Barry to die, or the Flash, I mean. And G. Gordon Godfrey is talking about how, like, he thinks superheroes are a problem because they resort to violence, and violence is not the solution. And then all of a sudden, the power at the studio that, you know, Billy Batson and G. Gordon Godfrey are at goes out. Somebody's knocked off, like, the radio, like, tower, like, the antenna. So Billy Batson sneaks away and turns into Shazam to go see what happened. And he finds this guy called Macro Man, who is this giant dude. And, so Captain Marvel fights him. I keep calling him Shazam, but because that's the name he goes by now. But at this point in time, he's just called Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel fights Macro Man, and Macro Man very quickly overpowers him and, like, is going to kill him. And Shazam is like, I'm not strong enough to use my powers against him to beat him. But what I could do is I could just call the lightning that transformed me to zap him, and that's what he does. He shouts, he's like, Shazam! And then the thunder and lightning comes down and zaps Macro Man, and it catches him on fire, and Shazam is like, oh my god, I set him on fire. And then Macro Man, like, blindly steps backwards. He's like, I'm on fire, oh my god! And he falls off the building to his death. He hits the pavement and he dies, and Shazam is like, oh my god, holy shit, I just killed him. And so, we shift our focus to the office of Amanda Waller in Task Force X. Rick Flag has shown up. Now, Task Force X used to be a team of nobody characters that no one remembers in, like, the 60s. And this is them kind of, like, being revived. And Rick Flag even mentions that, like, Task Force X, like, used to be a thing and now it's coming back. So he goes to meet with Amanda Waller, and he's kind of racist towards her. He calls her a cotton-picking... Like, he's like, are you out of your cotton-picking mind? And she's like, I would appreciate it if you don't use that tone with me and that kind of language. He's like, I don't care if you don't... And, like, Amanda Waller is like, I don't care if you like me or not, but, like, you're gonna do this for your country. We gotta bring the Task Force X back together, because we need them right now to deal with this situation. And Rick Flag is just like, whatever, I'll help. You know, I don't want to, but I'll do it for my country. He's kind of a dick. And so we go to, like, a cafe, or, like, a diner, where a character named Cosmic Boy is there. He's just having a cup of coffee. And Cosmic Boy is a member of the Legion of Superheroes, so he's come from the future to just hang out in the past. And while he's there, the diner gets attacked by Brimstone, the villain that Firestorm was fighting before. So Cosmic Boy goes out to fight Brimstone, and Cosmic Boy has magnetic powers, so he tries to use, like, the scraps of a car that Brimstone has destroyed against him, and it doesn't work. He, like, shoots all the metal at Brimstone, doesn't do anything, and he's like, shit, like, this guy is stronger than I anticipated. Brimstone destroys, like, a building that almost falls on Cosmic Boy and kills him, and then Cosmic Boy looks up and he sees someone, and they're like, hey, need a helping hand? And it's the Justice League of America. Except it's not the cool Justice League of America, it's the lame Justice League of America. There's no Superman, there's no Batman. It's Vibe, who's this character that can shoot vibrations. Elongated Man, who is a Flash side character. He has, like, stretchy powers, he's a detective. Vixen, who is this character that can use the powers of animals. Gypsy, who I don't even know what Gypsy does. I'm guessing she has, like, magic powers or something. Steel, who has the ability to, like, he's just really strong. Like, I think he can cover his body in metal or something. And you got Martian Manhunter, who is a alien from, who came from Mars, and he basically has the same powers as Superman, except he can also like change his durability. And then you got Firestorm, and so they're all here to help Cosmic Boy, and then meanwhile, some cops find Macro Man's body, and they're like, "Ugh, it smells like a burnt skunk." Does anyone know what happened to this guy? And someone's like, "I saw like this red dude like kill him." And they're like, "What? He was killed by Santa Claus?" Billy Batson knows it was him that killed him, and so he's just like, "What have I done?" He's like, "I can never be Captain Marvel ever again because of what I did." And so some news reporters are talking about the death of Macro Man. G. Gordon Godfrey just happens to show up. Of course he's there, and he's like, "See, this is what I was talking about. These superheroes are dangerous. You know, they're killing supervillains." And he's like, the very concept of the hero has become trite and outmoded. It's time for us to overthrow superheroes. We don't need them anymore. And people agree with him. The only people that don't agree with him are the children. The children are like, "This guy sucks. We love superheroes." And the adults are all like, "This guy's right. You know, he's making a lot of sense. They don't care about us ordinary Joes, but this guy does." And some guy is just like, "What have superheroes ever done for me? Except, you know, save the universe literally 6 months ago." And Billy Batson is just breaking down, crying. He's like 12. And he's just committed a murder. And so he's like breaking down. And he's like, "They're right. I'm a murderer." And so Darkseid is like reveling watching a child deal with trauma. Like, he is watching this 12-year-old kid like just break down, and he's like, "Ha ha ha, yes, like, this is amazing. I love this. I'm having so much fun. Just ruining the image of superheroes." And Darkseid like brings in this android, and the android transforms into Dr. Bedlam. And Darkseid reveals that, like, because Dr. Bedlam can apparently like shift his mind into things and become them or something. I'm trying to explain this. They don't explain it very well. They bring out this robot and it turns into Dr. Bedlam, and then Darkseid reveals that Dr. Bedlam used his like powers to psionically induce Captain Marvel to attempt his transformation. So Dr. Bedlam used his powers to make Captain Marvel think of like using his powers to kill Macro Man. So it wasn't Captain Marvel who decided to do that. Dr. Bedlam decided for him and made him do that. There we go. It's hard to explain, but that's what happened. And the Phantom Stranger shows up. Darkseid is like, "So, my friend, what do you think of man's ultimate nobility now?" And Phantom Stranger is like, "My opinions remain unchanged. You know, your idea of order is just no free will. And free will is always going to come out on top. And, like, no matter what you do to ruin these heroes' reputation, they're going to come back from it. Like, they're not going to be gone forever. It's ingrained in humanity, and it will never be stamped out." Darkseid is like, "On the contrary, my plan is too good this time. Just watch, and I'll prove you wrong." And so the Justice League are fighting Brimstone. Martian Manhunter goes in to fight him, and then Elongated Man is like, "Dude, he's made out of fire. Like, fire is your weakness. You can't fight him." And Martian Manhunter's like, "Oh, right. I guess I just got too ahead of myself." Brimstone destroys an entire building, and it lands on top of the Justice League. He's like laughing. He's like, "Ha ha 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 ha, I beat the Justice League." And so, like, yeah, he straight up beats them. Like, the building lands on top of them, and it seemingly looks like they've been crushed and killed. They haven't, but, you know, that's what it looks like. And Rick Flag and Amanda Waller go to a prison, Rikers Island, and they recruit Floyd Lawton, who is Deadshot, into Task Force X. And Floyd Lawton and Rick Flag is like, if you join us, like, and help us, we'll shorten your prison sentence. And then Floyd Lawton is like, well, what's stopping me from just escaping as soon as you get me out of here? And Rick Flag is like, my friend here is going to break your legs if you do that. Like, he'll break your legs off. And his friend is like, yep, I will. So Floyd is like, okay, I guess I have no choice, I'll help you. And so they take Floyd away. And meanwhile, there's like this gang holding up a mall. And they're like holding people hostage and stuff. They got guns. And they're like asking for money. And Batman and Robin show up to beat the shit out of them. And Batman's like, give me your gun. And the dude's like, no. And then like Batman just takes it from him and gives him a chop. He's just like, ugh! Puts him to sleep with like a hand chop. And then the police show up. And they're all like, put the guns down. It's like, what are you doing here, Batman? And he's like, I just did your job for you. And the cop tries to get into an argument with Batman, and Commissioner Gordon is like, stand down. He's like standing up for Batman. But then the crowd, like all of the citizens that are in the mall, start attacking Robin. They like jump on him. And they're like, the cop is right. Yeah, we could have been killed. You know, and they all start attacking Robin. And Batman's like, Robin, hold on! Gets perfume thrown into his face, which, like, now he can't... He's like, I can't see! And Gordon is like, we gotta get out of here, Batman! Like, I'll help you. He's like, no, I can't leave Robin. It's like, no, you can't see right now, so you can't help Robin. Screw Robin, we're getting out of here. I feel kind of bad for him, because they just leave Robin to get beaten up by all these people. So Commissioner Gordon and Batman get into a car, and they leave together. Which is, I like that, you know, I like how Commissioner Gordon is sticking up for Batman. The other cops are just like, man, why is Gordon sticking up for him? And so we go to another part of, we go to Chicago, and there's a drug deal going on at the moment. Blue Beetle shows up to deal with it, and as he shows up, the police show up, and the police are like, bro, you're ruining our, like, we're tracking this guy to get to his connection, and you've ruined it. And then the drug guy is like, this guy, like, he points at Blue Beetle and he's like, this guy's my connection. And the police are like, what? Okay, we'll believe you. Blue Beetle, you're under arrest for dealing in drugs. Blue Beetle is like, I don't have time to explain anything to you guys, and I feel like you're not even going to listen to me, so I'm going to get the heck out of here. And so he decides to escape. And as he escapes, he gets shot by the police. And he's like, I can't believe they actually shot me. Like, what the hell? Maybe I should rethink this whole superhero thing. And we go to another part of the world. We don't really know where it is, but I'm guessing it's like outside Coast City, because we're dealing with a plane that has been, like, the engine on one side of it has, like, blown up. So the plane is going out of control. Guy Gardner, who is a Green Lantern, is there to save the plane because he wants to prove that he's the best Green Lantern. So he shows up to stop the plane from falling. He uses his Green Lantern ring to create like a giant hand that catches the plane, and he lands it safely on the freeway. And when he goes down there, everyone's just like, what the heck are you doing? It's like, I saved this plane. And like, yeah, but like, why are you putting it on the highway during like traffic? Like, during, like, the highest point of traffic, like, you could have killed someone. And Guy Gardner's like, yeah, but I didn't, so what? And they're like, you should, like, we hate you, like, you and the rest of your kind. You superheroes suck. And they all try and, like, surround Guy Gardner, and Guy Gardner is just like, look, I don't give a shit about what you think. I just did my job. I saved a bunch of people. Now get away from me. And he, like, pushes everyone away with, like, his powers. He's like, if you've got a problem, go take it up with your congressman. And he flies away. Which I kind of like that. I like how Guy Gardner is just, like, not taking their shit. He's just like, yeah, fuck you. And then he leaves. And Cosmic Boy, it's revealed that Cosmic Boy was saved by Flash and Beast Boy. because, the building fell on Cosmic Boy and the Justice League. So they saved him. And Cosmic Boy is like, any word on Brimstone? And the Flash and Beast Boy are like, who's Brimstone? We haven't heard of him. We're too busy dealing with this G. Gordon Godfrey guy trying to ruin our images. Cosmic Boy is like, well, I gotta go. Like, he's like, there's this girl that I love out there somewhere in the middle of all this insanity, so I gotta go help her. And when he leaves, this villain called Professor Ivo, who is an enemy of, like, the Teen Titans and the Justice League and stuff, is like, excellent, my foes split their forces even thinner. The moment has come for the vengeance of Professor Ivo. That's literally, like, what happens. There's a lot of stuff in this. This story is a little bit too loose sometimes, where there's too many things happening at once. Or, like, something random will happen like that, where it's like Professor Ivo is just like, now I'm going to attack them. And so we go to the White House, and it's literally Ronald Reagan is the president. Like, the president is talking to Superman, it's Ronald Reagan, and he's like, his situation is getting out of hand, Superman. I don't know what Ronald Reagan sounds like, but he's like, Superman, this thing is getting out of hand, like, we got a crisis on our hands. And Superman is like, certainly you don't believe my fellow superheroes are responsible for this madness, do you, Mr. President? And Ronald Reagan is like, I was put in this office to serve the people. And something has to be done about the situation quickly. And Superman is like, I respect and appreciate your predicament. So, but this is all the doing of one crazed zealot named G. Gordon Godfrey. Ronald Reagan is like, I know, but, like, possibly what you're saying might be true. But until then, superheroes have got to stop being superheroes. Like, every superhero needs to just stop, and that includes you, Superman. Until this crisis is over, the superheroes need to stop doing what they're doing. And we leave off this issue with some cops find Robin. And this Robin is Jason Todd, by the way. And he's been the shit beaten out of him. He's like, we found Robin. Well, what's left of him? He's still alive, but, like, he's in bad condition. So people were rioting outside of the Titans Tower, now that superheroes have been outlawed and everyone's turned against them. And Wally and Beast Boy, or Changeling as he's known at this point, are being watched over by this guy called Sergeant Steel. And they're like, and he's like, I don't know if what I'm being told is true, but I've been told what I need to do by the president, so I'm just gonna listen to his orders, and so, neither of you are stepping foot out of the tower while I'm here. And Flash and Changeling are just like, I mean, you can try and stop us, but we're gonna leave anyway. And, if you know what the right thing is, then you won't do anything. And, they just leave. They leave the tower. They test him. They leave the tower. And, because he's like, I'll shoot you if you leave. And they're just like, I bet. Like, I dare you to. And so Changeling and Wally just leave the tower and he doesn't shoot them. He's like, blast. Us kids could teach Clint Eastwood a thing or two about nerve. Explaining this to the boys upstairs is not going to be fun. And so we go back to where Amanda Waller is. And she's recruited a group of villains to join Task Force X. We got Captain Boomerang, we've got Enchantress, and we got Blockbuster. And Captain Boomerang is an enemy of the Flash who can throw boomerangs and stuff. Enchantress is this character called Junie Moon, who uses magic, and the more magic she uses, the more evil she becomes, like the more control she loses. And then Blockbuster is this guy called, I think it's Desmond Miles. He took this serum to try and make himself as strong as he is smart, but he ended up just being really strong and dumb, so he's just like a big Hulk dude. And Captain Boomerang is like asking for his weapons, and he's talking down to Amanda Waller. He's like, "Can you give me my weapons? Like, I feel naked without my boomerangs." And she grabs him by the neck and is like, "You listen to me. Don't you ever call me Mrs. Waller. Like, you call me Mrs. Waller. Don't call me Amanda or Sheila or any of that, because obviously he's Australian." And Rick comes in. He's like, "Still charming as ever, Mrs. Waller." He's like, "Captain Boomerang, I'm Colonel Flag. This is my boy Bronze Tiger. And this is Deadshot, and they're helping us. They're on the team." And they talk about how, like, if they accept the mission and survive, then all of their criminal charges will be dropped. And Captain Boomerang is like, "That sounds sweet, but there's some kind of catch, right?" And he gets like this bracelet attached to his wrist. It's like, "What is this?" And they're like, "It's an insurance policy. You know, if you step anywhere away from, like, if you don't follow your orders, you're gonna end up missing a limb. You're gonna be one-handed for the rest of your life." And then Rick is like, "Bronze Tiger and Enchantress and Blockbuster, they don't have any bracelets because they joined the team for different reasons, and I guess we trust them to not run away. So it's only Deadshot and Captain Boomerang who have the explosive bracelets." Because this is back in the day when the Suicide Squad, it wasn't the case of like every single member has an explosive. It's like, no, the ones that have explosives are the ones who will probably try and run away. Which is why, like, in the movie, it didn't make sense that fucking El Diablo had an explosive when he was a willing participant, you know? I kind of like it when there's like, when the willing ones don't have explosives and the non-willing ones do. It adds a little depth to more of a depth to the team. So they're being ordered to go after Brimstone and stop Brimstone. Meanwhile, Billy Batson he's crying in an alleyway still, and he meets this girl called Lisa. And she's like, "I was separated from my mum and dad in the crowd, and I'm a little scared. What's your name?" He's like, "I'm Billy. I'm scared too." And so the Suicide Squad, they find Brimstone, and they go to attack him. And Brimstone is just really powerful, so like they're struggling against him. And Deadshot's been given this like laser rifle that is apparently going to... It's the right thing that will be able to kill Brimstone, because he's got like these magnetic fields that stop people from being able to hurt him, and so this gun will like pierce that and be able to kill him. But in order to get a good shot at him, they need Blockbuster to lift Brimstone up in the air and the other members to keep him busy while Deadshot lines up a shot to shoot him. And so Blockbuster literally picks up the entire ground, and Captain Boomerang is like throwing his boomerangs at Brimstone. And Enchantress is trying to transmute Brimstone's plasma, but her powers aren't working because he is sentient, and her powers don't work against sentient things. And so she just decides that she's just going to keep trying, to no avail. And Bruce is currently visiting, like Bruce Wayne is currently visiting Jason Todd, Robin, in hospital, because Jason Todd got the shit beat out of him in the last issue. And they're arguing over the fact of like whether or not the civilians actually hate them. Jason believes that deep down they all do hate them, and that like they hate the Batman, and Bruce is like, "That's not true, and I'm gonna prove you wrong, Jason." And so he leaves Jason to go be Batman, because he's like, "I'm not gonna listen to this new rule of vigilantes and superheroes not being allowed out to do their job. You know, I'm gonna do my job anyway." And so it's funny because Deadshot is talking about how, like, you know, this mission is definitely suicide. And Rick Flag is like, "You almost sound pleased." And Deadshot's just like, you do your job, Colonel, and I'll do mine. This gun's only good for one shot, remember? Just keep Blockbuster running interference till I can get close enough to Brimstone. And Blockbuster is fighting Brimstone. But then Brimstone just kills Blockbuster. He just grabs him and incinerates him. And so Blockbuster is dead. And Captain Boomerang's like, Struth. He fried the poor cobber. And Deadshot lines up a shot with like this chip that's on Brimstone, and he shoots it. And he's like lining up the shot, and he's taking his time, and Rick Flag's just like, shoot already. And he's like, alright, you spoil sport, I'll shoot him. And he shoots him, and Brimstone dies. He's just like, no, such pain, this cannot be. Help me, Father, help thy faithful servant. Father, why have you forsaken me? And he just bursts. And then the plasma of Brimstone falls upon everyone and is going to kill everyone. And Bronze Tiger is like, Enchantress, can you do something about that, please? Like, otherwise we're going to die. And she's like, yeah, I can do it now that he's not sentient. So she turns all of the plasma into snow, so it doesn't harm them. But by using her powers, she tips over the edge and is like, okay, we've killed Brimstone, now I'm gonna kill all of you. I'm gonna turn against you all. Bronze Tiger is just like, nope, and like, jabs her neck and knocks her out. He's like, that's the end of that? You're not turning against us? So they were expecting her to turn against them. And Captain Boomerang is like, we weren't supposed to come out of that alive, were we, Rick? Like, Blockbuster's dead and you don't give a shit. Like, we were all supposed to die, weren't we? And Rick Flag was like, we were all disposable, including myself. And Boomerang is like, oh, never mind then. You know, and the president is still talking to Superman about how, like, you know, I had to put this regime through Superman. And Superman's like, I understand, but whether or not I actually choose to follow it is up to me. You know, I understand what you did, I respect what you did, but I disagree. And, you know, I've got to, I have business to attend to. And he leaves. And Billy has been taken to Lisa's house to have dinner with her family. And, they ask him about, like, his parents, and Billy is like, I don't have any parents. And then G. Gordon Godfrey comes on the TV, spouting his nonsense. And the family that, like, Lisa's dad has fallen for G. Gordon Godfrey's powers. And so now he hates superheroes. Because it's revealed that G. Gordon Godfrey, his voice can actually control people. And so these people don't really hate superheroes. His voice has just been forcing them to think that ideal. And he's even done it to the president as well, where he's manipulated the president's way of thinking. And, like, the dad picks up this Superman doll that his kid is playing with and throws it into the fire, and he's like, I will not have that language in my house. Because she's like, yay, Superman, kill that robot. And he's like, screw Superman, and throws him into a fire, and this triggers Billy. He's like, ah! Seeing the Superman doll catch on fire, and he's like, ah! Like, this triggers me because another person has been set on fire because of Captain Marvel, even though this time it's a doll and not an actual human person. But it triggers him. And Lisa goes out to console him, and she's like, it's okay, Billy. She doesn't know he's Shazam, obviously. He's not She doesn't know he's Captain Marvel. And, the Spectre is... not the Spectre. The Phantom Stranger is talking to Darkseid still, and he's like, the reason why your plan is going to fail is because it doesn't matter if the adults turn to your ideal. The kids are never going to forget about superheroes, and they're never going to not stand by superheroes. They're always going to believe in them. They will always be in the hearts of the children. And Darkseid is like, yeah, not for long though, because I'm gonna send my warhounds to Earth and make things even worse. So just watch, you know. And so we cut to, like, a couple of cops They're both arguing. They're both on different sides. You know, one of them believes that superheroes are good. The other one believes that superheroes are bad. And their cop car gets attacked by Count Vertigo. And Count Vertigo is this villain who just has the ability to manipulate, like, people's vision through, like, illusions. So, like, he can make you feel like you're really high up and make you all woozy and shit like that. That kind of stuff. And he's ready to, do some criminal stuff. He's ready to, like, kill these cops, I guess. And Black Canary shows up, beats the crap out of him. But while she's beating him up, one of the cops is like, "Put your hands up, Canary. You're under arrest because you're going against the president's orders." And the other cop is like, "Whoa, what are you doing, Joey? Are you out of your mind?" He's like, "I'm just doing my job, Andy. I'm getting rid of scum." And he's like, "Come on, man, put that gun down. The Canary is on our side." And so they struggle over the gun. And he's like, "You get out of here, Canary. Like, go. I'll handle this." And she gets away. She's like, "Thank you." And so he's struggling with his friend over the gun. He's like, "Man, you're one of them, ain't you? A lousy vigilante lover. Come on, Joey, just give me that gun, and we'll talk about this like civilized." Bam! Joey accidentally shoots his friend, his cop friend, and he kills him. He said, Andy? Oh no. My own partner. I just shot my own partner." But then he's like, "But it's not my fault. She made me do it. That so-called superhero. Swear, I ever get one of them lousy costume creeps in my sights again, I'm gonna shoot first and not even bother asking questions." And then he calls the police about a murder that's just happened, and he's planning on blaming it on the Black Canary. Which I really love this moment. It's just really good of, like, he kills his friend, and then he blames it on Black Canary. You know, and it just shows the extent of G. Gordon Godfrey's control over people. It's a pretty grim moment, you know? And so Darkseid is like, "See, I told you. Haha, fuck you, Phantom Stranger. You know, this is, I told you so." Phantom Stranger, and he's just like, Earth is weak, and they're gonna fall to these kind of ideals, and there's nothing they can do about it. And everyone's like that, you know? It's not just Earth. All beings are like that. All beings fall to this kind of nature. And Phantom Stranger is like, "Well, what about this place called Skataris, where this guy called Travis Morgan, he's known as their land's greatest warlord, he fights a ceaseless struggle in defense of humanity's virtues." And Darkseid is like, "That's a small problem I can deal with. Hey, Darkseid, why don't you travel to this place called Skataris and teach this warlord guy a lesson?" And Darkseid is like, "Yes, master." And so he goes through the portal to go deal with Warlord. Darkseid is like, "I won't fail you." And Darkseid is like, "I'm certain you won't, Darkseid. Not if you place any value on your insignificant life." And meanwhile, the Joker has just killed a bunch of people. He's just, like, at a restaurant, and he's just murdered everyone with his laughing gas. And he's got a girlfriend at this point, which is really weird. Her name's Shirley. They're, like, kissing and shit. It's really weird seeing Joker, like, kissing someone. She's kind of like a pre-Harley Quinn, I guess. Batman shows up to stop them. He, like, beats up the gang. And then the Joker just starts acting like the Joker, and he starts using his girlfriend as leverage against Batman. He, like, grabs the gun, puts it against her head. He's like, "Back off, Bat, so the lady gets her ears pierced the hard way." And Batman's like, "You're in charge, Joker. Now what?" And Joker's like, "Good question. I thought there was some kind of presidential order putting wet towels like you out of business." Batman's like, "Yeah, but I ignored them, and I'm gonna take you down now." And so Joker's about to shoot Shirley, but he gets distracted when Batman throws, like, a batarang at a window to smash it, and he's like, "Huh?" And then Batman punches the Joker while he's distracted and knocks him out. And so he's gonna go put Joker back in Arkham Asylum or something. And meanwhile, this group called the Miss Magnificent and her pretty boys, they're all like bodybuilders. It's like this female bodybuilder and her like male compatriots are attacking a bank to get a bunch of jewels. So they're attacking a jewelry shop. And they get stopped by Green Lantern. He beats them up. It's literally just 2 pages. Nothing more to it than that. And it's Guy Gardner, by the way. And then we go to a antique clock convention in Chicago, where there's this woman, this scantily dressed woman who's wearing nothing but a bikini, and she's got like little clocks all over her body. She comes there and they're all like, "Wow, what a sexy lady!" And it turns out she's a robot created by this villain called Kronos. She like, her mouth opens up and like the sound of a bell comes out, and that's like his like entrance call. So he comes in and it's like, "It's me, Kronos, the time thief." And so Kronos is literally just this guy who like, he does time-based crimes, and he likes stealing clocks and shit. And so he pulls open his like robot lady and pulls out this giant rug thing, like this giant piece of cloth, which he puts all the clocks that he's stealing inside it. I guess it's weird. It's like his clock collection. So he's like stealing these clocks. A Blue Beetle shows up. Ted Kord, the Blue Beetle, shows up and tries to knock him out. And Cronus is like, "I've heard of you, and I prepared myself for this kind of situation." So his like female robot blows up, sending a bunch of shrapnel at Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle dodges it, but Kronos manages to get away on like his flying device, his like hovercraft. He's like, "I will like rain my terror over the rest of this fine city." And then the cops show up and they're like, "Freeze, Blue Beetle! You're breaking the law!" And Blue Beetle's like, "And Kronos wasn't? Look, I don't have time for this. I gotta get out of here. I'll see you later. See you in the funny pages." And so he leaves, and he's like, "Man, because of those cops, I've actually lost sight of Kronos." And it's like, what am I gonna do now? Like, how am I gonna find him? So we head to Salem, Massachusetts, in like this haunted tower. And this tower is where Kent Nelson lives. And Kent Nelson is Dr. Fate. Basically, he puts on this helmet called the Helmet of Nabu, and the helmet takes full control of him, and he becomes Dr. Fate. And it's not him anymore. He's being controlled by Nabu. And he lives with this woman named Inza, who is like his girlfriend. And she hates the fact that he has to put the helmet on because she loses him whenever he puts it on. And she's like, "Just promise me that Kent gets back here safe." He's like, "I promise." Like, and Dr. Fate is like, "I promise. You know, I gotta go and help the others deal with this riot that's going on with these human beings. You know, something's wrong and I've gotta help." And she's like, "I appreciate the sentiment, Fate, but nothing has been normal in my world for years." Because Fate is like, "I promise that once I'm done, everything will be restored to normal." And Captain Boomerang is pissed. Like, now we go to like Washington D.C. and Captain Boomerang is pissed off because he's like, "I did what you told me to do. Now get this fucking bracelet off my wrist." And Amanda Waller is like, "No, I'm not gonna take it off." And Amanda is like, and then Rick Flag is like, "Wrong, Amanda." And he turns off the wrist and sets Captain Boomerang and all the villains free. He's like, "They did what we asked them to. I'm going to respect the promise that we made to them." And it's like, "You've all been a credit to Task Force X, and now you're free to go." So he lets them all go, and that really pisses Amanda off. She's like, "What are you doing?" And so G. Gordon Godfrey is talking shit about the president now. He's saying that the president has decided to turn against his ideals, and so he's getting all of the citizens to rally up against the president and riot and basically try and overthrow the president. He introduces these warhounds that Darkseid has set up, and he's offering to actually turn the citizens of the city into warhounds themselves. He's like, who's up for becoming a warhound? And they're all like, yeah! And so Captain Boomerang is attacking the city now because he's just been set free and he's gone straight back to being a criminal. So he's like stealing jewelry and shit. And Wally West shows up. Wally West the Flash shows up to stop him. But he's not as fast as Barry was, and so like he's dodging all these boomerangs, and he still gets hit by one of them. And Captain Boomerang plans on throwing like a razor boomerang at him, but he gets hit by like this giant tail, and it's Changeling, who is turned into the form of a kangaroo. And Changeling is gonna beat the crap out of him, and then Wally's just like, no, he's mine! Like, that's my villain. I should be the one to defeat him. If the Flash is ever going to stand on his own. And then Captain Boomerang was like, it's really flattering that you're fighting over me, but maybe we should deal with those? And so these two warhounds show up. And Changeling's like, what the heck are they? And Flash is like, I don't know, but they look hungry. And then Darkseid is back on Apokolips, and he's just boasting about his plan. Operation Humiliation continues precisely according to plan, Stranger. And then Stranger is like, yeah, but you still got Superman to deal with. And it's like, he may be listening to the president, but he's still your biggest threat when it comes to this whole operation. And Darkseid is like, yes, on Earth perhaps. We see how he fares here on Unforgiving Apokolips. He opens up a portal, like a boom tube. They call it stargates at this point. Eventually they'll be renamed as boom tubes, which are like entrances to other dimensions. And so he plans on transporting Superman to Apokolips to deal with him personally. So Billy Batson is still traumatized over everything that's happened to him. You know, he recently ran away, like, you know, because as we know, he just deserted Lisa's family and during dinner because her dad is against superheroes. So he's crying in an alleyway, and Lisa comes to him and is like, Billy, like, what's wrong? Like, why did you run away? And he's like, I can't tell you. Like, it's something that I can't explain. But then he notices that there's a riot going on. He's like, another riot? Man, I gotta go, like, somebody's gonna get hurt. And then Lisa is like, no, somebody has to reason with them. And so she goes to try and reason with the riot, this little kid. And she gets hit on the head by some debris that's being thrown around by the rioters. And it knocks her out. And Lisa's like, and Billy's like, okay, that's it. That's enough. I can't sit idle by anymore. I gotta become Shazam again. Like, or I gotta become Captain Marvel again. And so he transforms into Captain Marvel. And when he transforms into Captain Marvel, he realizes that because he has the wisdom of Solomon, he just instantly knows that him killing Macro Man was all like a ploy created by Darkseid. So he was like, I wasn't actually responsible for the death of Macro Man. It was all this fake plan created by Darkseid. Like, that's literally how they explain it. He's like, when he becomes Captain Marvel, he just knows what's happened because he's really smart. And so he goes to talk to the rioters, and obviously they don't listen to him, and they start swarming around him and trying to attack him. And then a hand appears before Captain Marvel and is like, Captain Marvel, you are needed. And Captain Marvel vanishes. I'm just gonna cut to the chase and tell you who this person is because it's pretty obvious who it is. It's Dr. Fate. You know, there's a reason we saw him go away earlier. It's him. He's going around and grabbing different heroes. So we got Black Canary, who is currently an outlaw, and she's like, man, it's been a long time since I've been on this side of the law. And she starts beating up this team called the Laser League. And I think this version of Canary, it was retconned that she has metahuman powers, so that's why she's able to do like a sonic scream, because the previous version was just like a melee fighter who didn't use any kind of screaming powers. So she has like these new screaming powers that she calls her Canary Cry. She beats the Laser League and then gets teleported away by Dr. Fate. He appears and is like, I need you, and takes her away. Meanwhile, Guy Gardner is fighting this guy called Sunspot, who, like, he professes that he has the power to create an entire universe and is extremely powerful. But Guy Gardner doesn't give a shit and is just like, you know, well, I'm the one true Green Lantern. Like, he literally says that. He's like, I'm the one true Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, and I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And so Sunspot, like, picks up a giant truck, an oil truck, and he's, like, professing about how, like, he's too powerful, like, you can't beat me, I'm the most powerful villain of all time. And Guy Gardner's like, yeah. And so while Sunspot is talking, he uses his Green Lantern ring to puncture a hole in the oil truck, which puts oil all over Sunspot's face, and he's like, you try to humiliate me, you idiot, I'm gonna kill you. And he throws the oil truck at Guy Gardner and it explodes, but it doesn't do anything to him because Guy just creates a force field around himself to protect himself. He's like chilling on a little Green Lantern lawn chair that he's made, and he's got like a little Green Lantern, like he's created like a construct lemonade to drink from, which I find really funny. He's like, that was cute. Alright, I've had enough fun. So he like grabs Sunspot by the leg and lifts him up into the air, and Sunspot is like, you don't understand, I have the power to create a universe! And he tries to shoot Guy Gardner with it, and Guy Gardner is just like chilling in his chair, and he blocks the attack really easily. He's just like, oh, is that all you got? Man. It's like, alright then, I'll escape from your grasp. And so Sunspot tries to, like, blast the, like, construct shackle that Guy Gardner has around his leg. But in doing so, Sunspot burns off his own leg. He's like, I've burnt my own leg to a crisp! And then Guy Gardner is like, well, good thing I'm here, because I'm going to, like, stop your wound from bleeding out so we can take you to the hospital. And Sunspot's like, I'll kill you! And he's like, hey, if you try to blast me with that hand, you're not gonna have a hand. And then Dr. Fate shows up and takes him away. Like, I just love that whole fight. It's the best fight in this. It's just really fun seeing Guy Gardner just be, like, an asshole. And then we find Blue Beetle, and it's revealed that, like, he beat Kronos off screen. He just beat him. I think it was in a tie-in. Doesn't matter. He just found him, and he beat him. So he's going around the city being like, okay, what do I do now? Now that I've beaten Kronos, now what do I do? I'm an outlaw. Like, it's not like I can really do anything. And while he's thinking about it, he's, like, chilling on the side of a building. And this woman is, like, having a shower, and she just happens to look out the window and see him there, and so he sees her in nothing but a towel, and she's like, oh, you peeping Tom, police! And she, like, calls the police, and he's like, the last thing I need now is to be, like, known as a pervert, you know? I'm already an outlaw, and now I'm a pervert? But then he doesn't help his own case, because right after he's that he's like, cute tush, though. And I'm like, what the fuck, Blue Beetle? Like, you're afraid of being called a pervert, and yet you're still, like, talking about this woman's ass. And then he gets teleported away by Dr. Fate. He doesn't get a scolding or anything, which is weird. You'd think Dr. Fate would be like, alright, Blue Beetle, I've taken you, but, like, maybe you shouldn't be a superhero. If you're gonna be like that. Batman's doing his Batman thing. He's just on a golem looking over Gotham City. He's just like, I gotta figure out what's going on. Something feels unnatural. And then Dr. Fate, he's like swinging around the city like, oh, gotta find G. Gordon Godfrey. And then Dr. Fate shows up and takes him away. And Batman just disappears. And the Flash and the Changeling, or Beast Boy, I'll just call him Beast Boy because it's more likely that anyone listening to this knows who I'm talking about if I refer to him as Beast Boy. The Flash, Beast Boy, and Captain Boomerang are dealing with the rioting members of G. Gordon Godfrey's, like, human army. And they've also got his Warhounds there. And it's revealed that the Warhounds have people inside them that are operating them. We find this out because Captain Boomerang throws some explosive boomerangs at one of them. And he straight up blows up one of the Warhounds, and it's presumed that he killed the people inside them because he blows it up. There's people in there. Because it's still, the Warhound's talking, and it's the person inside it that's talking, so it's assumed Captain Boomerang just straight up killed some people, and the Flash and Beast Boy, surprisingly, they don't do anything about it. They don't say, like, what the fuck, man? You just killed some people. What the heck are you doing? No, they don't. They don't do that. I guess they're too busy saving other people. The Captain Boomerang tries to, like, run away from this crowd of people, and he gets captured by them, and they're, like, throwing him around, and they're like, let's take him to G. Gordon Godfrey so he can figure out what we're going to do with this Captain Boomerang guy. This traitor. And Flash and Beast Boy are like, we gotta save him. And then Dr. Fate is like, just let somebody else save him. I need you. And he takes him away. So Superman is talking to the president, and the president is like, G. Gordon Godfrey is getting out of hand, and we tried throwing the military at him, and he's now got control of the military, because he just talked to them, and now they're under his control. So this is getting way out of hand. We need to do something about it. And Superman is like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been saying that from the beginning. And then Dr. Fate shows up and is like, good thing I'm here. I need you. And so he takes Superman away because he needs Superman. Because of course you need Superman. He's Superman. So G. Gordon Godfrey is, being a raving lunatic in front of his crowd, saying, like, how they need to take down the government and stuff, and he's got Captain Boomerang there, and Captain Boomerang's like, I got me... doing the wrong voice. I got me rights. It's hard to, like... I feel like when they're trying to write Captain Boomerang, it's like they're trying to make him sound like an Australian guy, but, like, it comes off as more like he's British. He's like, I got me rights. Like, that's more of like a British way of speaking, not an Australian way of speaking. I got me rights. I don't know. It's fine. I can make fun of Australian accents because I live in Australia. So, yeah, he's like, what should we do with this Captain Boomerang? And his crowd is like, kill him, burn him, feed him to the Warhounds. And Captain Boomerang's like, you'll be sorry, you will. Like, I've got friends in higher places, and they're gonna deal with you. And then, G. Gordon Godfrey is like, take him away. Let them come. And, Amanda Waller is talking to Rick Flag, and she's basically like, you got two options right now, Flag. You can either go and rescue Captain Boomerang before he gives away any of our secrets, or you can just kill him. And I'd rather you go with option B, but it's your choice in the end. And Captain Flag is like, this is the hardest decision I'm ever gonna have to make. So G. Gordon Godfrey and his crowd of people are storming the Capitol right now, like literally trying to overthrow the government. And then Dr. Fate appears, and he's like, you know what? We're here to stop you. And it's not just me. I've brought some friends along. And those of us who serve the cause of justice. And they use the word justice a lot because at this moment, the Justice League no longer exists. Like, Martian Manhunter shows up later and says, like, and they're like, hey, where's the rest of the Justice League? And Martian Manhunter is like, there is no Justice League. But they're not dead, they just split up, I guess. Or maybe they are dead, I don't know, they don't confirm that. Maybe it's in the tie-in, who cares. The Justice League doesn't exist anymore, and it's assumed that like, basically you would assume, like, oh, they're setting up the new Justice League. And they are. They're trying to. They're trying to set up the new Justice League, but this isn't the Justice League that we end up getting. You know, because we got, like, Captain Marvel, Blue Beetle, The Flash, Beast Boy, Batman, Superman, Guy Gardner, and Green Lantern, and Black Canary. And Martian Manhunter later comes as well. And I guess it's assumed Dr. Fate was supposed to be a member of this new Justice League, because he's there too. But no, this is not the Justice League that we end up having post-Crisis, because for reasons I'll explain later, once we get to it. But Darkseid is boasting to the Phantom Stranger still about how, like, he's won. The Phantom Stranger is all like, not yet. It's not over yet, Darkseid. It's not over till it's over. And Jason Todd is watching everything go down from his hospital room, and so he's like, I gotta do something as well. I've got a plan. I can't just sit around. Like, Batman's out there helping people, you know, and I want to be like Batman, so I'm going to do something, because I am Robin, the Boy Wonder. So he leaves to go and help the heroes. And Darkseid basically just, like, he does his Darkseid thing where he's just, there's a lot of, like, him just boasting about the same shit over and over again. He's literally just like, I'm going to win, and, you know, Earth is doomed, and he doesn't even consider the fact that, like, because he's like, there's nothing the heroes can do. They're either going to be forced to fight the people that love them, that they are protecting, or be beaten by the people that they are supposed to be protecting. But he doesn't even consider the fact that, like, maybe they'll just go after G. Gordon Godfrey and get him out of the way somehow, because once they do that, it's assumed that they won't be under his control anymore. But, like, Darkseid doesn't even think about the possibility of them doing that. He's like, nah, there's no way they do that. Like, he doesn't even think about it. And, so Martian Manhunter shows up, and that's when he reveals that the Justice League don't exist anymore. And the Warhounds show up, and the Warhounds are there, and they're sent to attack this new Justice League, this new team of superheroes, or all the superheroes that are here at the moment. So they start, like, fighting the Warhounds, and, like, Guy Gardner blasts one of them, but Flash is like, you gotta be careful, like, there's people in there. We need to take these Warhounds, we need to get these people to safety first before we destroy the Warhounds. So that's what they start doing. Like, they start getting the people out of the Warhounds safely. You know, Superman is like, Dr. Fate, like, uses his powers to phase a couple people through the Warhound, and then Superman beats the crap out of it. And then Batman's just like, man, Superman can beat that thing so easily. I have to do it the hard way. I gotta get on, like, the back of the Warhound and beat the people up inside, and then pull them out of the Warhound, and then it can get destroyed. Woe is me. I don't have superpowers like you, Superman. Like, that's literally, like, Batman. He's just complaining about how, like, he has a harder time than Superman does. And G. Gordon Godfrey is like, shit, they're actually doing pretty well against my Warhounds. Time to summon the Parademons. And so he opens up a Stargate, later known as a Boom Tube, and the Parademons come from Apocalypse, just a huge army of them. And what a Parademon is it's basically like, you think of Power Rangers, where, like, there's, like, the minions. That's what they are to Darkseid. They're basically just Power Ranger minions. Like, just a horde of guys, a horde of disposable minions for the heroes to beat up. So they're like, oh shit, this, like, wave of Parademons are coming in, they're gonna kill everyone. They're gonna kill us, and people as well that aren't under G. Gordon Godfrey's control. We gotta stop them. And so, like, Superman and Captain Marvel and Martian Manhunter and all the others, they go to stop the Parademons while Dr. Fate stays behind to try and talk to the people. And they obviously don't listen to him. And a Parademon comes from behind Dr. Fate and steals his helmet. He's like, ah, shit. And the people all see that he's just a regular dude, and they're like, you're like us, which means you're a traitor. But luckily for Kent Nelson, even without the helmet of Naboo, he still has some powers, so he's able to fly away. I don't know if that's actually a thing with Dr. Fate, where he can still use his powers without the helmet, but in this event, he can, because he needs it in order to get away. He's just like, without the helmet, I at least have flight and strength, so I can get away from this crowd. like, luckily. So he flies away from the crowd. G. Gordon Godfrey is, like, going to go and talk to his prisoner, who is Captain Boomerang, because he wants to get information out of him. And he's like, I know that you recently teamed up with a group of supervillains to take down Brimstone, and so I want you to tell me everything about them. Captain Boomerang is like, well, if you let me go, I'll tell you everything. And somebody's got, like, a sniper bullseye on him. It's Deadshot. He's getting ready to shoot Captain Boomerang. And Rick Flag is like, no, don't! We're not gonna do it that way. And Deadshot's like, yeah, but isn't that, like, one of the choices that we have is that, like, we just kill him? And Rick Flag is like, yeah, but I'm the one making the choice. Alright, Enchantress, use your powers. And so she uses her powers to melt the Warhound, like one of the Warhounds, and then the other one, like, blows up. She, like, turns the Warhound into Jello. The people inside the Warhound are like, help us, G. Gordon Godfrey, and he's like, help yourselves. And so he tries to escape. And Rick Flag is like, hey, Bronze Tiger, go down there and get him. And Bronze Tiger jumps down. He says something like, he says one line that I found, like, so hilarious, but I hate that I find it hilarious, where he's just like, not exactly what I'd hoped to find under my Christmas tree, Colonel, but I suppose Bengals can't be choosers. Get it? Because he's themed after a tiger. So he goes down to stop G. Gordon Godfrey, and Godfrey just takes control of Bronze Tiger's mind. Like, he tries to fight the control, but he fails, and so Bronze Tiger is now under Godfrey's control. It's not really gonna matter in the end. Bronze Tiger isn't gonna be forced to fight anyone during, like, the final battle. He's just gonna be there. Like, there's no real purpose of him being under Godfrey's control, because he just ends up being in the crowd with everyone else that's under Godfrey's control. And so Rick Flag and Deadshot and Enchantress show up. They don't even question where Bronze Tiger is. They're just there to, like, talk to Boomerang. Boomerang is like, hey, good thing you guys showed up. You know I was just kidding, right? Like, I wasn't gonna tell him anything. And Rick Flag is just like, shut up, and knocks him out. And he's like, because of what you've done, because you went against the rules, you're probably going to be a member of the Suicide Squad permanently. So Batman is searching for Godfrey, and while he's doing so, he's, like, fighting some people that are under Godfrey's control. And Guy Gardner is trying to defeat the Warhounds. And as he's fighting some Warhounds, a mysterious figure from an alleyway jumps out. It's Wonder Woman. And in this continuity, Wonder Woman is still a secret from the public. She's been doing superhero stuff, but, like, she hasn't revealed herself yet. She's just been, like, skulking in the shadows. So she wasn't a member of the Justice Society in World War II like she was in the original continuity. In this one, it's like, no, she's been living in man's world, but she hasn't revealed herself to man yet. And so this is her official debut as Wonder Woman in continuity, where she's like, and the people of this world will call me Wonder Woman. And so she comes out and, like, beats up a Warhound. Green Lantern's like, wow, you're quite a babe. And she's like, don't call me a babe. Like, I'm not a babe. She's like, we gotta go save people. So she runs around to go and fight more Warhounds and save people. But yeah, this is Wonder Woman's official debut within continuity after Crisis. A bunch of terrorists attack the White House. And the president is like, you're not gonna take me alive. Or, like, you're not gonna kill me. And they're like, oh yeah? Well, yes we are. He's like, you don't have the nerve to shoot me, and, you know, you're just a bunch of stupid terrorists. And the guys straight up try to shoot the president, and it doesn't do anything to him. And he just takes their gun and bends it. And it's revealed that the president is actually Martian Manhunter in disguise, and the real president is like, Thank you for saving my life. And there's one security guard there that's like, I still don't trust this guy. He's an alien. Like, some idiot. He's like, no. Like, Martian Manhunter just saved the president and you're still questioning him and you still don't trust him? And the president's like, you're such an idiot. Like, this guy saved my life. And because of that, I should just remove the order of banning superheroes entirely. And his security guard is like, are you sure? And he's like, yes. It's necessary. And so the ban has been lifted and the superheroes are allowed to be superheroes now. So Superman, Captain Marvel, and everyone is and Martian Manhunter goes to help everyone else, obviously. Superman and Captain Marvel and everyone else, they're all fighting the parademons. And so they're taking care of the parademons, and because the Warhounds have been taken care of by Green Lantern and by Guy Gardner and Wonder Woman, and the parademons are being taken care of by some of the other heroes, Flash and Beast Boy, Wally West and Beast Boy, are able to take care of the rioters. And so, they're trying to stop the people that are rioting without, killing them, obviously. They are beating them up, but only in self-defense. And then Martian Manhunter, Guy Gardner, Wonder Woman, Dr. Fate, Captain Marvel, and Superman all join them, and so the superheroes are all together now within the crowd of rioters. G. Gordon Godfrey is like, kill them! You must destroy them all! And, the superheroes are like, please stop, we're begging you, you gotta stop this. But they're not listening to them, and Darkseid is like, see, I told you, it's over. It's futile. And Phantom Stranger is like, wait a minute, we got one more scene left. It's not over yet, Darkseid. And that's when all of the children come out of the crowd. And they're like, no, you mustn't do this. Please stop. You gotta stop this. We ain't gonna let you touch these heroes. And so they're standing in front of the heroes, protecting them. And then Robin shows up and is like, listen to them, folks. They're making sense. No matter what Godfrey says, you can't really believe that Batman and the others are menaces. Batman's like, careful, Robin. You're dancing through a minefield here. And, Lisa is like, we believe in these heroes and what they represent. And Godfrey straight up backhands her. He, slaps her. He's like, shut up, little girl, and slaps her in the face. And then this is what pulls all of the adults out of his trance. And they're like, he just slapped that child. He's like, oh, shit. I just fucked up big time. He's like, oh, well, I guess I'll resort to plan B. He pulls out the helmet of Nabu and puts it on. He's like, with this power, I'll be stronger than Darkseid. And then, the helmet of Nabu just, destroys his mind. Because only specific people are allowed to wear it. And so when he puts it on, Nabu just destroys his mind. It literally says that he pulls his mind away. And so G. Gordon Godfrey becomes a vegetable. And that's it. Godfrey has been beaten, and everyone has lost control of, they've gotten full control of their minds again, and they're all like, could you, we're so sorry, superheroes, we're sorry that we did all this. Will you ever forgive us? And Superman is like, of course we'll forgive you. You were under mind control. You weren't doing it out of your own will. Guy Gardner is like, fuck them, yeah, they may have been under control, but I still think that, what they were, they still believe this deep down. So I don't trust them. Captain Marvel is like, don't judge them so harshly, Guy Gardner. It's part of our job to stand apart from humanity, to protect them from the threats only we can deal with. If you were looking for hero worship, friend, better look for it somewhere else. And, Dr. Fate is like, we're all a pretty good team. And, we had the Justice League before. It's probably a good idea if we make another Justice League. And Batman's like, yeah, I'll be a part of that. like Martian Manhunter and Guy Gardner and Black Canary and Captain Marvel and Blue Beetle are all like, yeah, I'll join. Like, I'll be a member of this new Justice League. And the Flash is like, I've got my own problems going on in my life, but if you need me, I'll be there. Which is a soft way of them saying that the Flash is not going to be on this version of the Justice League. And this will directly lead into the Flash's own series that we're going to be covering soon. And Beast Boy is also like, I'm a member of the Teen Titans, so sorry, I'm not going to be on the Justice League. My heart is with the Titans. And Superman is also like, as the Flash said, I'll be there when you really need me. So that's basically Superman's way of being like, John Byrne is writing my series at the moment, and he doesn't want Superman to be a member of the Justice League because he's too busy setting up Superman's origin and world and stuff. So, yeah, he's not going to be a member of the Justice League. And Superman's like, and what about you, Wonder Woman? And Wonder Woman has just disappeared. She's gone. And that's because George Perez is also busy writing Wonder Woman's new series, and he doesn't want Wonder Woman to be a part of the Justice League because continuity-wise, it doesn't make sense for her to be a member of the Justice League. Like, it doesn't fit with what George Perez is trying to tell, like the story he is telling. So yeah, they're trying to set up a Justice League, and it's already falling to shambles. Where, like, you know, they're like, what should we call ourselves? And Blue Beetle's like, the answer's obvious. We should just call ourselves the Justice League. And so the Justice League has kind of been formed. Not yet. There is a later series. Eventually they do have a Justice League comic that comes out, and they try to form a Justice League, but they're not allowed to use Superman or Wonder Woman or the Flash, and they're not allowed to use Hal Jordan Green Lantern, so they have to use Guy Gardner. And Denny O'Neil, who was the editor of Batman at the time, felt bad for them, and he was like, okay, they can have Batman for a bit, and then we'll take him back. But that'll be like, maybe we'll cover that Justice League series in the future, once we've done with most of the Flash. Yeah, because I have always wanted to read that Justice League series. But yeah, we just end with the Phantom Stranger saying, like, and the Justice League has been formed. At least we think it has. And, I'm happy to call these heroes my friends. And Darkseid is also talking about how the fact that, like, this is just a temporary setback. I'll be back. And next time, I'm gonna... maybe I'll actually do something myself. I do like how this whole event, Darkseid doesn't actually do anything. They do mention about how, like... Remember how earlier on in the event, like, I forgot to mention this because it's such an easy thing to glaze over, but at the end of one of the issues, it mentions how Darkseid is going to bring Superman to Apokolips, and he does. But it's in a tie-in. And it doesn't matter, because, like, in the tie-in, he gets into Apokolips, and he meets with Darkseid, and then he just gets sent back to Earth again. So it's like, it doesn't really have any kind of bearing on the plot overall, it's just filler. Which is why I didn't cover the tie-in, because it happened, but, like, you don't have to read it. But yeah, Darkseid is just like, yeah, I'm gonna try this again at some point. And that's Legends. So, yeah. The origin of the Suicide Squad. The origin, or it's supposed to be the origin of the new Justice League, kind of. It's fine. It's a fun little event. I do think it suffers from... I mean, it suffers because it came after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like, right on the heels of that event. And that event is so good. And then you got Legends, which is just a fun little event. About the public turning against the heroes. But because it's only 6 issues, they don't really get to go like deep into it. So it's very surface level. I still recommend checking it out though. It's interesting, like, especially like you get to see like it sets up the new universe quite well of like being like these are all our big players in this new DC reboot universe that we've created since Crisis. Some stuff feels a little bit half-assed, like Wonder Woman showing up out of nowhere. Like, she's not in this series at all until the very end, where she's just like, I'm here. It's like they forgot that she existed. Or they, like, just had to force her in somehow. And it was also a weird choice that Captain Marvel... Like, it was weird that Captain Marvel was the choice for them to have, like, a hero who murdered someone and have the public turn against superheroes. Like, it feels like they only chose Captain Marvel because they... Like, because editorial wouldn't... Like, my theory is that they wanted Superman... Like, one of the big players, like Batman or Superman, to be the one to, like, have killed someone. But editorial is like, no, we can't have Superman accidentally kill... Like, we can't have Superman kill someone even if it's accidental. And we can't have him have a traumatic experience over it. Make the 12-year-old be the one that has the traumatic experience. And also, he has a talk show for some reason. I don't know if that was set up in, like, the Captain Marvel series, post-reboot, but, yeah. Other than that, it's fun. It's nice. It's cool. You don't have to read it. But, like, yeah, it's short, 6 issues. Yeah. That's Legends. But before I go, I am going to cover one more comic book on this episode of the podcast. It's going to be like a special episode of like a little epilogue to this episode. I'm going to cover Flash Annual 1. Because it serves as kind of an epilogue to this event. And it will give us a fresh opening when we get straight into The Flash. So we can just start off with issue 1 instead of starting off with Annual 1. So let's get straight into that. So as I said, we do a little bonus, like, epilogue to this. This isn't really connected to Legends, not really, but it is technically Wally West's first adventure post Legends, because they released this annual before they released his first issue. So I thought I'd just cover it, and it's kind of detached from the rest of the stories because it's an annual, but I enjoyed what I read of what I understood, because I will say, this annual, it's a bit nuts. It's basically framed in the sense of, like, this is a, like, kung fu action film, basically, if it were a Flash comic. And I'm going to try and explain it the best I can, but it's not going to be easy to explain, because the way they talk, the way that the dialogue is written is very similar to those old kung fu films as well. But Wally West is eating at a Chinese restaurant. He gets a fortune cookie that gives him like a message. It's like, a long journey leads to lost relatives. And while he's reading it, a gang comes in to rob the place. And they've all got guns. And so Wally, like a snap, transforms into the Flash and takes away their guns. And they were like, we order you to give you all our money. And after he takes the guns away, he's like, what was that order again? So we're already being shown that Wally has like this sense of humor that Barry Allen didn't usually have. He's also got the guy's guns, and he's like looking for this. And then in super speed, he punches a guy out. He takes a guy's mask, and he's like, "What's your problem? I never laid a hand on you." And the guy falls over. He's like, "Ugh!" And he falls over, and he dies. And Wally's like, "I never laid a hand on him." And there's a chef there who's like, "Dim Mac, the death touch." And some of the guys are trying to get and Wally's just looking at him like, "What? What do you say?" And some of the burglars try to get away, and Wally goes after them and stops their car. He's like, "Pull over!" And then he hits them. Like, he hits the car without touching it and sends it flying. But then he grabs the guy that flies out of the car and, stops him from dying. And he goes back to the restaurant, and the cops are there, and they're like, "Well, thank you for helping us, Flash." And Flash is like, "The robber who fainted, like, how is he?" And they're like, "We're not gonna know until he's in the hospital, but it's assumed he died." And Wally's like, "Just so you know, I never laid a hand on him." And he goes and meets with the chef, and the chef is like, "You had an interesting fortune just now. A long journey leads to lost relatives." And that's when Wally asks him, like, "What did you mean when you said Dear Mac earlier?" And the chef is like, "Come with me." So he follows him, and the chef takes Wally to, like, his little abode, and he's like, Wally's like, "Thank you, I must know what happened to the robber." And the chef's like, "Internal power. Now sit. I will prepare tea." And Wally's sitting down, he's like, "What are you talking about, internal power?" And the chef is like, "You are impatient. Like, I sense you're impatient." He's like, "Impatient? I'm the Flash. Like, it's impossible for me not to be patient. Like, it's taking all my willpower right now to be sitting on the ground." He's like, "Look, I'll show you." And, like, he washes the dishes really fast. He's like, "Okay, I'm sitting. What about internal power?" And the chef is like, "You're disrespectful." And so they drink some tea, and that's when the chef explains to him that by internal power, he's talking about chi. And he talks about, like, these great masters who can project their internal power outside themselves, causing disharmonious vibrations, injury, even death in the body of an opponent. Like, they can create injury and even, like, including death, without touching them. And he's like, "This is what you have done." He's like, "But I didn't intend to." And he's like, "Yeah, because you don't have full control over it yet. But I know someone who can teach you to gain control of these abilities." You see, many years ago, there were these masters of negative energy, and the government saw them as a threat, and so they tried to kill them all. They tried to kill all of these masters of negative energy, and they succeeded in killing most of them. First of all, they tried to fight them normally, but the masters were too strong with their kung fu abilities, and so they tried killing the masters with actual weapons, and they succeeded. And there's one remaining, and Wally has to go see him to learn how to control his negative energy, so that he doesn't accidentally kill more people. And he's like, "Wow, you're impressive for a chef who just works at a restaurant." And the chef is like, "Not as impressive as someone who got struck by lightning around chemicals." He's like, "Yeah, that's right." Also, the chef's name is Marshall Lau. That's his name. And it shouldn't surprise me that you know about all this. It seems like our meeting was inevitable. Like, it doesn't surprise me that you know of my origin. And ever since what happened to... ever since what happened to Barry happened to me, Marshall Lau's like, "Barry?" And that's when Wally's like, "Barry was the previous Flash before me. Do you have any family?" And Marshall Lau's like, "I left a son and daughter in China, but they had left me before. Like, someday I would like to see them again." So, like, he left them in China, but before he left them, like, they'd already separated themselves from him. And then Wally's like, "Well, I guess I gotta go to Hong Kong." And before he goes, Marshall Lau is like, "Take this silver dollar with you. The sage that I told, like, the final sage who will be able to teach you your abilities, like, he told me that I would meet a red-garbed man, and that I must hand this silver dollar to him so that the red-garbed man can bring it to me." It's all part of that, like, hero's journey thing. And then he also tells Wally to spend the night there, and so he does. And in the morning, Wally takes off, and he heads back to his house. And this is where we find out that at some point Wally won the lottery. Like, it just says, like, he's built a new pool, and rooting, like, he's got a new gym and indoor pool, because he won the lottery. And that's like, because Marshall Lau says he's a lucky man. So he's like, yeah, he's right, I'm lucky. Like, I won the lottery, I've got a mansion. So he heads back to his mansion that Wally owns to meet his current girlfriend, whose name is Connie. She's a model. And Wally starts... It's at this point where this version of Wally is written to be quite misogynistic. Forgot to mention, this is written by Mike Baron. It's written by Mike Baron with art by Jackson Geiss. So Mike Baron seems to be writing Wally as like a bit of a misogynistic dude. He's talking about how like women are soft and men are hard, and that women were made more for like gathering while men are made more for hunting. It's pretty bad. I don't like it. I don't like him being written this way. He's written to act more like Roy Harper than he is Wally. You know, because Roy Harper's more of the sexist. I know people don't like it, but like that's how Roy has always been written, not Wally. So it's weird for Wally to be written like that. Be the sexist dude. So he goes to Hong Kong and he's asking people around where like this sensei is, like this master is, and they don't know what he's talking about. And he finds like this group of guys and he asks them, and they're like speaking in Chinese. They're like, ooh, such expensive clothes. Which one of us wants to fight this guy? You know, what's he talking about? Some kung fu master? Like, let's beat the shit out of this American. And so they try to fight him, and Wally is just like dodging their attacks and stuff. And he's still asking them like, so do you know where this master is? And they still keep trying to beat the shit out of Wally. But Wally, like, this guy pulls out like some nunchucks, and Wally just like grabs them without the guy even noticing and like knocks him out. And so they all run away because they're like, oh, this is some kind of freak. And they all run away. And that's when some kids nearby reveal that they know where the master is. And so they tell him where he is. They tell him that he has to go to McDougal Street and walk north until he comes across a staircase of the seven heavens. Go up and you will find him. And so, and then he's like, Wally's like, oh, so you must know the master, right? And the kid's like, I don't know. So he like tells him where to go, and then he's like, but I don't actually really know. Like, I don't know the master. So he follows the directions that the kids tell him to go to, and he finds this dojo where there's this young guy who is fighting a big brutish guy who has like, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a stick that kind of like, it's like attached to chains, and it's like you can use it as like a weapon, where like it's like 3 segments and they're attached by chains. I don't know what the name of it is, because they just refer to it as like a stick. And so the guy tries to attack this like young guy, like this big guy tries to attack the young guy, and the young guy like uses his negative energy abilities to just knock the guy out without touching him. He also uses his abilities to like, he's basically got force powers, because he just grabs the silver dollar out of Wally's hand and catches it. And Wally is like, wise and sage, I presume? And he's like, that is a good beginning. And then so they leave together. Like, if that's literally the dialogue. The dialogue in this is very, very like weird, the way that it's all written. Because Wally speaks the way that they do. It's like very much like old kung fu dub, the way that, and it's probably on purpose, but like it's not a good idea to write your comic that way. And it's also being like narrated by Wally as well. So they go to the master's house where they meet this guy. He is the voice of the revolutionary spirit. They don't say his name, they just say that they've come to meet this guy. He is the voice of the revolutionary spirit. And they have tea with him. And the guy says about like how he has like this new regime that he wants the master to join. And he says like, those who chased you from the mainland have been punished. And you know, the master is like, they appeal to my national pride. It is almost humorous. They send voice to entreat me, thinking to impress me with his prowess. He is their most advanced master. And the guy's like, no, actually, like, there's someone above me. And he asks the master to accept the Central Committee's offer to return to the mainland and serve the cause of international socialism. And master is like, or? And he's like, if you don't, we'll destroy you. And he, like, breaks the tea glass with his negative powers. The guy does, not the master. While he's just sitting there listening to all of this, I'm explaining this the best I can. Like, this is literally how it's written. Like, it's not bad, it's just, like, confusing. And Wally's like, what was that all about? And the master explains that when the communists took over, they banned all the kung fu societies for fostering cults of personality, but now they want to bring it back because the martial arts are in favor again. And the sage reveals that he's 640 years old. He's like, this is my 11th extension, and that he's going to stop at his 12th. And he's like, an extension? And he's like, the body. So it's assumed that, like, he switches bodies constantly. So, like, he owns this house because he is enveloping the body of the person that owns this house. But once he leaves the body and is done with his his next extension, whoever he's in control of will have their house back. So it won't be his house anymore. He's like, come, you must sleep. You have training to do in the morning. And so Wally goes to sleep, and he has a dream of, like, the silver dollar. And it's the master, like, it's the sage. He's, like, shining the coin in Wally's face to wake him up and get him to go training with him. So they go training, and they're just, like, sitting down, concentrating. He teaches him how to, like, use his negative abilities by showing him, like, he, like, destroys a rock with his negative power, like, with his negative energy. And then he tells Wally to just stand still for as long as he can. So Wally stands still for 10 days in a row. 10 days. And apparently after that, he has mastered how to control his negative energy. And the master is like, yeah, impressive. You did it in 10 days. It took me 7 years to master. And Wally is like, you had a head start. So they head back to the house to have some tea. And we're introduced to this woman named Lin Mei. And Wally asks her, like, are women servants here? And the sage is like, yeah, that's just, like, what we're accustomed to. But I rescued her from, like, the bad people, so, like, it's fine that she's the servant for me because, like, I'm a good guy. It's just part of tradition. And so Wally asks the sage, like, what are you looking for? And the sage is like, well, the answer to that question is just peace of mind. And then Wally's like, what about the silver dollar? Like, why did he ask me to send it? And the sage explains that they escaped together, like Marshall Lau and he. And he was determined to go to America, and the sage was determined to remain in China. And yet they were both seeking the same thing. And Marshall Lau, he says that the coin is the symbol of Marshall Lau's freedom, the American eagle, Lady Liberty. The sage mentions that he, like, loaned him $1 long ago. And Wally says, this is literally just how it's, the dialogue, I'm trying. Wally says that Marshall left his son and daughter, and that's when Sage mentions that they were captured and executed as a warning to the others. And he's like, they say the white demon herself had done it. Now she in turn has fallen. And he's like, rest now. Tomorrow we advance into your second decade of training. And while Wally is asleep, Melee comes in and, like, sleeps with him. Like she literally just walks into his room and they have sex. He's like, I'm only a man. Like, he has, like, this pathetic, like, there's a lot of dialogue, but it's basically just comes down to, like, she sneaks into his room, she has sex with him, and he just goes along with it because he's a guy. And so Wally goes out, and he's, like, waiting for the stage. Or, like, he's told to wait for the stage, and so he's waiting there, and nothing happens. He's waiting there for a while, and then all of a sudden, the silver dollar comes out, and Wally stops it. And, like, hits it away. Like, he senses it and hits it away. The sage is, like, impressive. From here, it is but a brief 3 years to dim Mac itself. What? Yeah, the way it's written, I think he's saying that, like, it's 3 more years of training and you'll be good to use dim Mac. Which is the negative energy power that Wally is training to use. And that's when Wally asks the sage if he, like, asked Lin May to sleep with him last night. And Sage is like, what? No? Did she? And he's like, yes. It's like, old fool. That was not Lin May. We gotta go back to the house. So they go back to the house, and they find that the guard there is dead. And that's when they find the voice from earlier, the guy. He's there. He killed the guards. And he attacks Wally with his negative energy. And they fight each other. The sage and the voice fight each other. So, yeah, like, they're fighting. And the sage, like, slashes the voice's chest. But he's fine. The entire time, the voice is just saying one thing. He's just saying Hong over and over again. Which is weird. So they have a massive fight, and Wally tries to help the sage by, like, attacking the voice from behind. He, like, grabs onto the voice's arms, and the voice is, like, sapping Wally's energy. So Wally is, like, frozen. He can't move. So the sage tries to save him. And he, like, jumps behind from the voice and, like, cuts his, like, stabs him in the head. He kills the voice by, like, chopping his head open. And in doing so, the voice manages to stab the sage in the gut as well. So the voice is dead, the sage is gravely injured, and well, he's like, I'll take you to a hospital. And he's like, no, you have to fight the voice's master, the one who's stronger than him. And Wally is like, to fight who? Like, if it wasn't Lin May, who was it? And that's when the voice, while he's dying, is like, I told you, there was one other greater than me. Sister. So the voice's sister shows up. And she's like, face me, butcher from the west. Also, it's funny how his last name is West. Face the dance of the revolution. And so this woman shows up and she's like, you helped kill my brother, so I'm going to kill you. And so her and Wally fight. She, like, beats the crap out of Wally, and then she tries to strangle him. You know, she's, like, strangling him. She, like, pulls him over, like, her back and is, like, strangling him with this rope that she's got. I'm guessing it's, like, a metal rope. And he drops the coin. He also mentions about how he's lucky to die at the hands of a beautiful woman, which is just weird for Wally to mention. Apparently he has that kind of kink or something where he just, like, turns him on, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. Weird enough that he mentioned it. And Wally starts concentrating, and he is able to, like, pull himself out of her grasp and, like, knock her over. So he, like, gets free of her strangling him. He, like, gains control of the fight and, like, knocks her over by, like, cross-chopping her leg. And Wally has used Dim Mak on her, or at least he tried to. And so Wally is like, "Can we just quit this fight now? Like, you're gonna die." And she's like, "I think not, Flash. Bad enough the Western powers rely on you so-called superheroes. I cannot permit you to carry Dim Mak back to the West." So she attacks Wally, and he hits her with Dim Mak, which sends her flying into a wall. He hits her in the kidney, and then, but she still keeps fighting, and Wally's like, "Stop it, I've already killed you. Can't you feel it? Dim Mak, the death touch?" And then she's like, "If I failed, then I deserve to die." And then Wally is like, "Yeah, but there are people that can heal you of Dim Mak, because Dim Mak is something that can be healed." And Marshall Lau shows up. Oh yeah, because earlier on he mentioned that he's a healer. I forgot about that. He mentions that he's a healer. He has the ability to heal like stuff like Dim Mak and stuff. And so he shows up, and he's like, "Wow, you get around, Marshall Lau." And he's like, "I'm only following the man in red. Come with me, young woman, and I will tend to your wound." She's like, "Why should I trust you?" And he's like, "Why should you not? You would die anyway." And Wally goes over to the Sage to see if he's alright, and the Sage is like, "Can you please tell him to heal me once he's done healing her?" And Wally is like, "Is she his daughter?" And Marshall Lau is like, "Unfortunately, she is not." And then Wally is like, "So that's not your son?" And Marshall Lau is like, "He is not. I grieve for him anyway." And Marshall Lau greets the Sage, and then uses the coin that was given to Wally to heal the Sage with the Dance of Revolution. And so when he heals the Sage, Wally is like, "What about the woman? Like, is she gonna be okay?" And that's when Marshall reveals that he never even used a Dim Mak on her. And Wally is like, "No, the truth is I haven't learned Dim Mak yet. I merely punched her." And Wally's just like, "I came all this way and spent 2 weeks in China to learn this technique, and I didn't even end up learning it. Wow, I just wasted my time." And Marshall Lau is like, "I was foolish to trust in your luck and fortune cookies baked in Hoboken by Italians." And then that's when Lin May shows up, and it's revealed that Lin May is Marshall's daughter. And they hug. She's like, "Father?" And then Wally is like, "Did you know Lin May was Marshall Lau's daughter?" And the Sage is like, "Nope." And so Wally heads back to America. He heads back to his mansion that he has. And he heads back to Connie. And they have a massive hug. He's like, "Let's have dinner. You know, I had a big 2 weeks. And I'm exhausted. And I'm hungry." And Connie's like, "You're so impatient." And Wally's like, "But I'm lucky." And that's it. That was Annual 1 of The Flash. Oh my god. Probably the weirdest thing I've ever read. All that dialogue was like, the way I was reading it was the way it was written. And like I said, like, I think they were trying to go for, like, it's supposed to be, the way everyone's talking is like one of those badly dubbed, like, Hong Kong, like, kung fu films, you know? From like, the 60s or 70s. And, if that's what they were going for, they did a good job, but it makes it a real nightmare to read, and especially explain. But yeah, I just thought that would be like a little fun thing to add on to the end of this episode as like a, that way we didn't, like, could you imagine I start off the next podcast episode and we started with that? Like, that is not a good way to just start off Flash Volume 2. I'd rather start on a higher note than that. But it was fun, you know, it's just a one-time story of Wally going to China and learning about this negative power that he's probably never going to use again. He couldn't even use it in the first place. But who knows? If it does come up again, at least we read it. We can, reference that later. If I were to write The Flash, I'd bring back the Stage and Marshall Lau and do a whole story arc revolving around them. I'm only half joking about that. But nah, seriously, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Midlife Crisis with this extra little special, episode of, flash forward at the very end of just Annual 1. And next time, I am going to start on Flash Volume 2, for real this time. We are actually starting with Flash Volume 2. No more events that happened before it. But yeah, we will be doing other events in the future as they happen. So at certain points, we're just going to be cut off while covering the Flash, and because ties into an event or something. But I'm trying to plan it out ahead of time to be like, okay, this is where the event happens. So I'll do these 8 issues for one episode, and then do the event, and then continue from where we left off. And hopefully it should flow together, the best way that it possibly can. But yeah, next time we're going to be doing another episode of Flash Forward, where we cover issues 1 through 10 of The Flash. So I hope to see you next time. The episode will be released next Sunday. And yeah, check out Legends. Check out Flash Annual 1 if you want to. And I'll see you next time. Bye.